Welcome to E-commerce Psychology, the show where we help you understand the minds of your customers. And today we're going on a deep dive into the fascinating world of color. Specifically, how it influences your e-commerce decisions.
Ooh, color. Very interesting.
We'll be looking at this article, The Neuroscience of Color, Beyond Preferences to Behavioral Impact E-commerce Psychology.
Okay.
It was published just last week, on March 8th, 2025. You might think color is just about aesthetics.
Yeah, for sure.
But this deep dive reveals how deeply color is actually intertwined with your brain, your emotions, and ultimately your purchasing decisions when you're online.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Get ready to uncover how your brain transforms these wavelengths of light into those vivid experiences that actually guide your behavior online, especially when shopping online.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating. It's amazing how much is actually going on beneath the surface when we experience color. I think we take it for granted a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But color is really a powerful tool, and it can be leveraged to create really engaging and persuasive online experiences.
This podcast is powered by Growth Suite. Growth Suite helps you to run smart discount campaigns on your store. Test it for free on your Shopify store. Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the article starts by kind of shattering this misconception that color is just about light hitting our eyes.
Right, it's so much more than that.
So much more than that.
Yeah, color is actually a neural construct, meaning it's created by your brain.
Oh, that's very cool.
Of course, light has these different wavelengths, right? But what you perceive as red or blue depends on how your neurons are interpreting those wavelengths.
Okay.
It's not just about the light itself. It's really about the signals in your visual system.
So you're telling me that my brain is basically creating the colors that I see.
That's exactly right, yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
It's wild.
But if everyone's brain is different,
Right.
wouldn't that mean we all see color differently?
That's a great question. And it's true that there are actually individual variations in how our brains process color.
Yeah. But for the most part, we all share a pretty consistent experience of color.
Okay.
And this is because our brains are incredibly adaptable.
So even though our brains might be wired slightly differently, we're all basically seeing the same thing.
Exactly, yeah. Think of it this way. So you have different types of cones in your eyes
Okay.
that are actually responsible for color vision.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating is that the proportion of these cones can actually differ from person to person, but we all still perceive a similar range of colors.
Wow.
And that's because, again, your brain is amazingly adaptable, and it compensates for these variations.
That's incredible. Our
Yeah.
brains are doing so much behind the scenes without us even realizing it.
Absolutely. And the journey of color information from your eyes to your brain is actually a fascinating one.
Yeah, tell me more.
So it all starts with those cones in your retina. You have 3 types, S, M, and L cones.
Okay.
And each of those are sensitive to a different range of wavelengths.
So they're kind of like these specialized receptors, each picking up on different parts of the light spectrum.
Exactly. They're like these little antennas, and they're tuned to these specific frequencies of light.
That's so cool.
And once those cones, they capture that light information, they send it through these specialized channels in your brain called color opponent channels.
Color opponent channels. Okay. What do they do?
Basically, they help to simplify this really complex visual data, so it's easier for your brain to actually process all this information.
Okay, got it.
So you can think about it like they're streamlining the information, so your brain can very quickly make sense of like brightness and different hues and things like that.
That's so efficient. So where does the information go after these channels?
So from there, the signal travels to your visual cortex, which is kind of like the control center for processing visual information. And it's fascinating because your brain actually organizes colors in this very specific way,
Wow.
kind of like creating this color map. So you can very quickly tell the difference between colors, even when like the lighting changes.
So
Yeah.
it's like my brain is constantly adjusting
Mm-hmm.
and recalibrating my color perception based on the environment.
Exactly. It's this very dynamic process that ensures that you have this consistent color experience.
Wow. Okay.
But here's where things get really interesting. So researchers did these really cool experiments called switch rivalry experiments.
Okay.
And they showed that sometimes your brain can actually see a color that's not really there.
Really?
It's wild.
That's wild.
Yeah, so it's like your brain is filling in the gaps based on like what it expects to see.
So our brains are basically making educated guesses about what color we should be seeing.
Yeah, in a way, yes, it's highlighting this really incredible role of your visual cortex in constructing your color experience.
Yeah.
And it really goes beyond just these raw signals from your eyes. Your brain takes into account context, expectations, and even your emotional state.
So you're saying that like my mood can actually influence how I see color?
That's right, yeah.
That's incredible.
It's all connected. And speaking of connections, it's important to remember that your brain doesn't actually process color in isolation.
Okay.
It's also factoring in things like shapes and depth and movement. It's all integrated to create this seamless visual experience for you.
It's like a perfectly choreographed dance of neural activity, all happening behind the scenes.
Exactly. And what's even more fascinating is that this very intricate process of color perception, it has this really profound impact on your behavior, especially when it comes to making decisions online.
Now that we've seen how color information gets to the brain, let's talk about how it makes us feel. I have a feeling this is where things get really interesting for our e-commerce listeners.
You're absolutely right. Stay tuned because we're about to kind of unravel this fascinating world of color and emotion and how it can be used to create more engaging and persuasive online experiences. Welcome back to e-commerce psychology. We left off talking about how color doesn't just exist in the physical world, but it's actually actively constructed by your brain. So now let's dive into how this really intricate dance between your brain and color shapes your emotions and your behavior and ultimately your decisions when you're shopping online.
Okay, I'm ready to get emotional. But seriously, how can something as simple as color actually influence how I feel?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how certain colors just kind of seem to evoke these really specific feelings?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Like, for example, the color blue might make you feel calm and relaxed.
Yeah?
But then a bright red might make you feel more energized or even a little agitated.
Yeah, I definitely feel like certain colors just have like different vibes. But is that just me or is there actual science behind that?
No, it's definitely not just you. There's tons of research that show that these different colors can actually trigger these distinct emotional responses in your brain.
Oh, wow.
For example, warm colors like red, orange, and yellow, those often engage areas of your brain that are linked to alertness and motivation,
Okay.
which can then lead to those feelings of excitement and energy that you're talking about.
So it's like those warm colors are kind of giving my brain a little boost.
Exactly, yeah.
It makes sense why those limited time offer banners are always in bright red.
Yeah,
They're trying to get me hyped up to buy something.
exactly. They're really trying to tap into those feelings of urgency and excitement. And then on the flip side, cool colors like blue, green, and purple. Those tend to activate neural networks that are associated with calmness and relaxation.
Yeah.
So they kind of help you feel more at ease, less stressed.
That's probably why so many like meditation apps use a lot of blue in their branding
Right.
to create a sense of peace and tranquility.
Exactly. They're tapping into those natural calming responses that these cool colors evoke in our brains.
Okay.
And these color emotion links aren't just psychological, they're actually deeply rooted in your biology.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So emotional processing centers in your brain, they actually light up in these specific ways, depending on the color that you're seeing.
Wow.
It's really linking your visual experience to memories and moods and even physiological changes like your heart rate.
So it's not just about how I perceive a color, it's actually affecting my body on a deeper level.
Yes,
Sex.
exactly. That's wild.
It really is. And this connection between color and emotion, it plays this really crucial role in how you make decisions, especially when you're browsing online.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Imagine you're shopping for clothes online, right? And you see this dress that you like, but it's available in several different colors.
Yeah.
The color that you choose isn't just an aesthetic preference.
Yeah.
It's actually influenced by those emotions that those colors evoke in you. So if I'm feeling adventurous and want to stand out, I might go for a bold red dress. But if I'm looking for something more calming and sophisticated, I might lean towards a cool blue or green.
Exactly. You're kind of unconsciously factoring in the emotional impact of those colors when you're making your decision. And smart e-commerce brands, they really understand this connection between color and emotion.
Yeah.
They use it very strategically in their website design, their product photography, and even their marketing materials to influence your perception of their brand and to guide you towards a purchase.
This is fascinating. It's like Those brands are speaking this secret language that my brain just understands on an emotional level.
That's a great way to put it. And it goes beyond just those individual colors, too. The overall color palette of a website or a brand that can really create this powerful, lasting impression.
So if I'm building a website for my online store, I shouldn't just randomly pick colors that I like. I need to really think about the emotions that I want to evoke in my customers and choose a palette that actually aligns with my brand and the products that I'm selling.
Precisely. And that's really where a deep understanding of color psychology comes into play.
Oh.
You want to create this cohesive visual experience that not only attracts your target audience, but also guides them towards taking action, whether that's making a purchase, signing up for your email list, or exploring your product offerings.
This is incredibly insightful. But I'm curious, are there any specific colors that are generally better for e-commerce? Like, is there a magic color that's guaranteed to boost sales?
Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. When it comes to like the best color for e-commerce, it really all depends on your brand and your target audience and the specific actions that you want them to take.
So it's not about following some generic color rulebook.
Right.
It's about understanding these nuances of color and using them strategically
Yeah.
to create this really unique and effective online experience.
Exactly. But there are definitely certain colors that have been shown to be particularly effective in certain contexts.
Oh, spill the tea. What are some examples?
Well, we talked about how warm colors, like red, can evoke excitement and urgency,
Right.
which makes them a really popular choice for things like sale banners or call to action buttons or limited time offers.
Great, Seth.
They can really grab your attention and encourage you to kind of act quickly.
That explains why I always feel a little impulse to click on those red buy now buttons.
Exactly. They're really designed to trigger that sense of urgency.
Okay.
And then, on the other hand, cool colors like blue, those often convey a sense of trust and stability,
Oh, yeah.
making them a really popular choice for brands in industries like finance or healthcare or technology.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, we're reliable. You can count on us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have colors like green, which are often associated with nature and growth and peace. And so they're often used by brands that want to kind of promote a sense of sustainability or health or well-being.
So it's all about choosing colors that really align with your brand's values and the message you want to convey.
Absolutely. But it's not just about those individual colors themselves either. It's also about how they're used in combination.
Oh, okay.
So color contrast, for example, can be a really powerful tool for guiding attention and creating visual hierarchy on your website.
So if I want to make a specific element stand out, like a call to action button, I should use a color that contrasts sharply with the background.
Exactly. So that contrast will make the button really pop and it'll draw the user's eye. So it makes it more likely that they'll click on it.
Okay, got it.
And this principle of contrast, it applies to all aspects of your website design, from your logo and typography to your product images and your background colors.
It's amazing how much thought and strategy goes into choosing the right colors for an e-commerce website. I never realized how much of an impact it could have on user behavior.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's often overlooked, but it can make a huge difference. And as research in color neuroscience continues to evolve, we're learning even more about how to kind of leverage the power of color to create these truly engaging and persuasive online experiences.
This is mind-blowing stuff. I feel like I'm seeing the internet in a whole new light now. But before we get too carried away with all these cool colors, I think we need to address the elephant in the room, which is individual differences.
Yeah.
Not everyone reacts to color in the same way.
Right. That's an excellent point. And that's actually what we'll be discussing next. We'll delve into how factors like gender and age and cultural background and personal experiences can all really influence our responses to color. So stay tuned because it's about to get even more colorful.
This podcast is powered by Growth Suite. Growth Suite helps you to run smart discount campaigns on your store. Test it for free on your Shopify store. Just land on the Shopify App Store now and test it for free. Welcome back to e-commerce psychology. We've been on this really cool journey exploring the neuroscience of color, and now I'm kind of curious about, like personal preferences and cultural differences.
Right.
Because not everyone's obsessed with like the same colors, are they?
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head there. So while there are, some general principles of color psychology, like we talked about, it's really important to remember that color perception is not this one-size-fits-all thing.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So a color that evokes excitement in one person might feel totally overwhelming to someone else.
So what are some of the factors that can kind of cause these individual variations?
Well, everything from our genetics and biology to our upbringing, cultural background, personal experiences, all of these things can shape our responses to color.
Okay, so let's unpack that. How does biology come into play?
So think back to how we discussed, those cone cells in our eyes that capture light. So the proportion of those cones can actually differ slightly from person to person, which can lead to these really subtle variations in how we actually perceive certain hues. And some aspects of color vision are even linked to the X chromosome, which is why color blindness is more common in men than women.
So our biology kind of sets the stage for how we see color,
Right.
but then it sounds like culture kind of comes in and adds another layer of interpretation on top of that.
Exactly. So different cultures often assign these specific meanings and symbolism to colors.
Okay.
For example, white might symbolize purity in one culture, but then it could be associated with mourning in another culture.
Oh, wow.
And red, which is often associated with excitement and passion in Western cultures, can actually symbolize good luck and prosperity in some Eastern cultures.
So even if we're like biologically wired to respond to a color in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
our cultural background can actually influence how we interpret that response
For sure.
and the emotions that we associate with that color.
Exactly. And then on top of all of that, you've got your personal experiences, which can create these, really unique and very individualized color associations.
Right.
Like, for example, if you know your favorite childhood toy was bright yellow, you might have this really strong, positive emotional connection to that color. Or, maybe you had a really negative experience that was associated with a certain color. You might kind of subconsciously avoid that color later in life.
It's amazing how those like personal connections can shape our preferences and
Yeah.
even influence our purchasing decisions without us even realizing it.
Absolutely. And so, as an e-commerce business owner, it's so crucial to really be mindful of these individual and cultural differences when you're choosing colors for your brand and your website.
Right, because
Yeah.
what resonates with one segment of your audience might completely alienate another.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how can e-commerce businesses navigate this complex world of color and make sure that they're choosing the right palette for their target audience?
Well, it starts with research. So, understanding your ideal customer is key. And consider, their demographics, their interests, their cultural background, and the overall aesthetic of your industry. And even look at your competitors, like what colors are they using and what seems to be working for them.
So it's not just about like following some generic color rule book.
Right.
It's about doing your homework,
Yes.
choosing colors that are really going to resonate with your specific audience.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. A/B testing is your best friend when it comes to these color choices. So try out, different color combinations for your website, your product photography, your marketing emails, and just really see what gets the best response from your target audience.
It's a great point. It's all about that data-driven decision making. But even with all this data and research, it can still feel kind of overwhelming to choose the right colors.
Yeah.
Do you have any like final tips or insights for our e-commerce listeners out there?
Yeah, absolutely. Here are a few kind of key takeaways to keep in mind. So first, consider the emotions you want to evoke.
Okay.
So think about how you want your customers to feel when they interact with your brand. Do you want them to feel, excited and energized, calm and relaxed, trusting and secure? You really want to choose a color palette that aligns with those desired emotions. And then also think about your brand personality. Just like people, brands have personalities.
Right.
Are you playful and fun? Sophisticated and elegant, bold and rebellious. Your color choices should reflect your brand's unique personality. And don't be afraid to break the rules. While there are these general guidelines for color psychology, sometimes the most memorable brands are those that really dare to be different. So if a certain color feels right for your brand, even if it goes against the conventional wisdom, go for it.
I love that.
And then lastly, remember that less is often more. A simple, cohesive color palette is often much more effective than a chaotic rainbow of colors. So choose a few key colors and use them consistently across all your branding and marketing materials.
This has been such an enlightening deep dive into the world of color. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for the subtle but really powerful ways color influences our perceptions, emotions, and ultimately our buying decisions.
Well, it's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you. And just remember, color is such a powerful tool, and when used strategically, it can really make a world of difference for your e-commerce business.
And remember, if you're looking to optimize your Shopify store for higher sales, Growth Suite is here to help. Test it for free on the Shopify App Store. Just search for Growth Suite and start boosting your revenue today.
Thanks for joining us on this very colorful journey.